Zygmunt Bauman, in this edition of The Crisis of the Enlightenment, you are speaking to enlightenment in an age of diasporisation. What does that mean to you?
Well, that means simply that I was thinking very hard what to offer you, because by now I'm quite sure the little group you surrounded yourself with knows much more about the topic than I do about crisis of enlightenment. So what possibly I can tell you, which is different, well, different, new, relatively new, if at all it is possible. And so what I'm offering today is not new information about enlightenment, because that you are completely in possession of, but a slightly new approach. New approach from the point of view of one of the consequences, rather remote and not easily traceable, because rather complex continuity between enlightenment and the situation which is emerging now, and I think one of the most prominent characteristics of our time, namely diasporization. Diasporization which stays with direct contrast with the major idea of enlightenment, which was universal order, universal culture, universal criteria of truth, of goodness and beauty. We are witnessing what's called globalization. On the one hand, there is a global interdependence. On the other hand, there are local consequences, very differentiated, of the same process of the merging interdependence. I call it glocalization. You know, globality and locality merge into one. So if you look from this perspective, some other aspects of enlightenment, which are not necessarily present in philosophical approaches, what's happened to the concept, what's happened, in the world of concept when concepts meet, sometimes are in struggle, mutual struggle, sometimes they fertilize and produce new progeny. That's the idea. Whether I will succeed to do it, I'm not sure.
I am fairly sure you will,
but I will try.
This diasporization, is that an aspect of what you call a liquid society?
Yes. Yes, it is an aspect of liquid society. Well, liquid society, about liquids, why this metaphor? About liquids, you are ignorant what will be the next shape which liquid will take. Under the influence of even minor trifle pressure, it will change completely its form. So the major psychosocial essence of the state of liquidity is uncertainty combined with impotence. Uncertainty because you don't know what's going to happen. We are not in power to predict any longer. Futurology is now no comic literature, really, because what actually happens has very little to do with that. And the impotence, namely the feeling that even if I knew what is bound to happen, and I didn't like it, I wouldn't be able to stop it, because we have no instruments. We are living in an era of crisis of tools, of collective action.
Yesterday at the Wien Museum, you were attacked, or your speech was interrupted by a group of Polish fascists. Are we moving away from this idea of enlightenment?
Moving away from what?
From an idea of enlightened discourse?
Enlightenment, as you, I am quite sure, know only too well, is a very, very complex phenomenon. It's not just about bringing sweetness and light, as Matthew Arnold, the British representative of enlightenment, used to say. it contains germs of very unpleasant development. You know as well as I do, even better probably, critique of Adorno and Horkheimer of enlightenment producing fear, enlightenment producing people afraid of the void suddenly open, thrown into turbulent waters without proper guidance. And I would be suggesting in this paper, among other things, that we are now repeating this situation. We are now in an era which repeats the situation of the collapse and falling apart of ancien regime. And ancien regime produced enlightenment.
Well, Bauman, I can't wait to hear
very nice. It was a very nice continuation, a consequence. It could be worse, but it's produced still enlightenment. Very good. I pray that we manage to do the same with our time of uncertainty. I call both these periods of interregnum. By interregnum, I mean the feeling, the sentiment, the awareness, the anxiety that the old ways of doing things, tested in the past, don't work any longer, but the new ones. At the best, they are on the drawing boards, but not in practice yet. So it is also clearly a period of transition. And as in most periods of transition, we know that we are moving away from something, but we can't be sure where to are we moving. That's it. That's liquidity for you. That's ignorance. That's impotence. That's anxiety. That's fear. These are features of our time.
Zygmunt Bauman, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your lecture.
All right.